I'm back. Rhodes for the Matrixx and Rhodes show. Well, they love doing this. And by they, I'm talking about the wokes on Twitter, on social media, the progressive radical left, when they target properties that they know mean so much to so many people, especially ones from the 80s, 90s, 70s. Back when story took precedent over checking boxes. Well, we know how that goes now. They are checking all the boxes they can. Story be damned. All right. And I've always contended, if you got a good story, nobody notices a lot of the other crap. But when you can so blatantly tell that so many stories now are written with the idea of forcing checks into check boxes, well, people can smell that shit a mile away. And one of the properties they have decided to go after is a property that sort of has a rebirth. Cobra Kai is like the #1 streaming series, period, in the United States. Yeah, it came out a while back, maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, that it had the most watched minutes of any series recently on any of the streaming services. Of course, it's on Netflix. Cobra Kai is fucking great. It's fantastic. And it's because they're respectful and true to the original product of The Karate Kid. And then they have incorporated so much of the previous movies into this series. Well, they've come after the original Karate Kid. Why? Because they feel like it didn't check the appropriate amount of boxes. It has been labeled too white. And I will tell you who is having none of this. The star of Cobra Kai and said Karate Kid movies, Ralph Macchio. Good for him for hitting back on this kind of bullshit. This is the Daily Wire. Ralph Macchio KOs claims that the original Karate Kid was too white. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Pat Morita actually Asian? Am I wrong for that? Am I missing something? Or wait a minute. Asians don't check the appropriate boxes? Is that where we're going? That seems sort of racist now, doesn't it? I don't know. That seems racist. Actor Ralph Macchio dismissed claims that his 1984 film, The Karate Kid, was, quote, too white, and did not spend enough time reflecting on Japanese cultural influence on the martial arts discipline. Interesting. Huh. Macchio, whose turn as Daniel LaRusso in that movie cemented him as a household name, said last week that he has always believed the movie was ahead of its time, mainly because it addressed the subject of WW2 era Japanese internment camps. Quote, people have said it's a very white cast that didn't dive into an Asian story. But I always say this, the film was way ahead of its time because it was a popcorn movie that talked about Japanese internment camps during World War II, the 60-year-old actor explained. Wow. 60 years old. Good God. Macchio went on to say that his late co-star Pat Morita attributed his Academy Award nomination to the one scene that addressed the camps, his character's experience during the war. I think we all remember this scene. That scene showed the typically stoic Mr. Miyagi drunk and losing control of his emotions as he remembered his wife who died in childbirth along with their son in an internment camp on what would have been their anniversary. The scene ends with Macchio's Daniel putting his instructor and mentor into bed. It's a powerful scene. What made this scene so powerful, Macchio argued, was the fact that Morita himself had spent time in the camps. Pat himself spent 2 years in the camps. So it had a double meaning and some depth, he said. Despite the depth and power of the scene, Macchio said it almost ended up on the cutting room floor over concerns that the movie was too long. Quote, the studio's main concern was that the movie was running over 2 hours and they would lose a daily screening time and essentially money in the process. They all shut up once we screened it for them with the audience. Macchio returned to the character he made famous decades later, reprising his role of Daniel LaRusso in Netflix Cobra Kai. Despite some early concerns about coming back to the role, Macchio explains that in his new memoir that the series has succeeded in taking what made the films work and bringing those elements, quote, overcoming the obstacles, finding your way, figuring it out, to a whole new generation of fans. And it's got a wonderfully diverse cast, you know? But you can tell that casting the show didn't become about checking the appropriate boxes. It became about, let's write a good story, and then as people come to, I'm sure, audition for roles, and they felt, we'll cast the best people for the best parts. Whoever seems to read for these parts the best and does the best job, it maybe tackles and grabs the character for themselves. And frankly, regardless of any preferences, and in fact, I can't even tell you the sexuality of any of these characters. Do you know how great that is? I mean, you know, because it shouldn't be a priority. And as far as like ethnicities, who cares? Every character in this show is great. Regardless, nobody's even noticed. Nobody has even noticed. That's the way diversity is supposed to be done. All right? Instead of blatant political agendas shoving down your throat in such a way as it always comes back to The Last Jedi, but it's sort of the one that had so many glaring political statements shoved into it, and then Hollywood really lost its mind after that, and everything became about some kind of checking a box. God, you see it all over Marvel now. It's nuts. Ralph Macchio is 60 years old. Wow. I feel old, and then I realize how not that far behind him I am right now. Yikes. Even times 2. Holy crap. Good job for him. Anytime they can recognize Pat Morita, and I will say this, I wish Mr. Miyagi played a little bit bigger role in this show. In other words, I would like to see some more flashbacks. And I know they do it, but I'd like to see some more flashbacks back to the previous films involving his character, especially stuff from maybe Karate Kid Part 2 when they were in Okinawa. He was such a good actor, you know, a comedian. He was a comedian. A lot of people don't remember. You know, I believe he was on what? Happy Days? Am I going crazy? Happy Days? Mork and Mindy? Happy Days. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Black and white. Oh, there, I did it. God dang it. I did it. I'm not shooting this whole video over again. I am not. Peace. I'm out. Matrixx and Rhodes show. I'm not shooting this whole video again. Black and White Network supporters, make sure you go over and check out the Black and White Network merchandise store. 25% off USA First. 25% off USA First. Go now.